The moment the screen flickered on, no one was prepared for what they were about to witness. Yandy Smith, usually composed, polished, and unshakable, was visibly trembling as thousands watched her Instagram live in real time. Her voice cracked, her eyes filled, and then the words dropped like a bombshell. What started as a casual check-in with fans spiraled into a raw emotional collapse when Yandy claimed she had just uncovered a betrayal that cut deeper than anything she'd faced before. Fans are shocked, timelines exploded, and within minutes, social media was in full meltdown mode. According to Yandy, the tears weren't about rumors, this was about proof. Screenshots, messages, late-night calls, and at the center of it all? Two names nobody ever expected to hear together in the same sentence, Erica Mena and Mendeces Harris. As Yandy struggled to breathe through sobs, she whispered, "I defended everybody, and this is how I'm repaid." Emotions ran high as viewers watched her wipe tears away, clearly torn between ending the live and finally telling her truth. Comments flew by faster than anyone could read, fans demanding answers, others begging her to log off, and some accusing her of holding back for years. The tension was unbearable. Was this a secret affair hidden in plain sight? A long simmering betrayal masked by smiles and red carpet photos? Or something even darker that the cameras never caught? By the time Yandy abruptly ended the live, one thing was clear: the family was left divided, fans were left shaken, and a scandal had officially been unleashed. And this was only the beginning. The live didn't really end when the screen went black. That was the part fans didn't understand yet, because the moment Yandy's finger hovered over the button, her phone started vibrating non-stop. DM after DM. Missed calls stacking up, names she hadn't spoken to in months suddenly lighting up her screen. Her chest was tight, her hands shaking as she whispered to herself that she should have never gone live. But it was too late. The truth, or at least her truth, had slipped out, and now the entire world was pulling at it like a loose thread. She sat alone on the edge of her bed, staring at the wall, replaying the last words she said before cutting the live. "I defended everybody." Those words echoed louder than the comments ever could. Because in her mind, defending everyone meant protecting secrets that weren't hers to protect. It meant swallowing discomfort at family gatherings. It meant ignoring little red flags she told herself were nothing. And now those red flags were burning bright, impossible to ignore. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a fan. It was Mendeces. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Not yet. The hurt was still too fresh, too sharp. Minutes later, another call came through. Erica. That one made her laugh, a bitter, broken laugh that startled even her. "Now you want to talk," she muttered under her breath. Emotions ran high as she tossed the phone onto the bed like it had betrayed her too. Across town, Erica was pacing her living room, nails tapping against her phone as she refreshed social media over and over. "Fans are shocked" was already trending, her name tied to words like affair, betrayal, snake. She kept saying it was all lies, that people were doing the most, but her hands were shaking too. Because she knew how this looked. She knew about the messages. The late-night check-ins that crossed lines she swore she'd never cross. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was never supposed to be seen. Meanwhile, Mendeces sat in his car, engine off, staring straight ahead like if he didn't move, time might rewind itself. He'd seen the live, every second of it. He heard the crack in Yandy's voice and felt something sink deep in his stomach. He kept telling himself it was complicated, that people wouldn't understand. But the truth was simpler and uglier. Choices were made, boundaries were crossed, and now the family was left divided before the real conversation even began. Yandy's sister pulled up at her place unannounced. She didn't knock. She walked straight in, eyes wide, phone still in her hand. "Tell me this isn't true," she said without even saying hello. Yandy didn't answer right away. She just looked down, tears sliding silently now, the kind that come when you're too tired to cry out loud. That silence said more than any confession ever could. "I knew something was off," her sister continued, lowering her voice. "Every time Erica came around, the energy shifted. Fans see it before we do sometimes." That's when Yandy finally broke again. Because hearing someone else say it made it real in a way screenshots never could. She admitted she'd found messages weeks ago. Innocent at first. Check-ins. Jokes. But then came the deleted threads, the gaps in time, the kind of silence that only exists when conversations move somewhere else. On the other side of the city, Erica called a friend, voice frantic, insisting Yandy was playing victim. She cried about loyalty, about how everyone always paints her as the villain. "I didn't sleep with him," she said over and over, like repeating it might make it true enough for the internet. But even her friend paused before responding, and that pause cut deeper than judgment ever could. Fans flooded comment sections with old clips, old interviews, moments that suddenly looked suspicious in hindsight. A laugh held too long. A hug that lingered. Emotions ran high as strangers dissected every frame like detectives, convinced they'd cracked a code that had been hidden in plain sight. Nobody was waiting for facts. They were waiting for drama, and this delivered. That night, Yandy finally answered Mendeces' call. She put him on speaker but didn't speak at first. The silence stretched until he sighed and said her name. Softly, the way he always did when he knew she was hurting. How long, she asked, her voice calm in a way that scared even her. He hesitated, and that hesitation was the loudest answer she could have gotten. Don't lie to me now, she said. I went live defending our family while you were protecting yourself. The line went quiet again. Then he started talking fast, explaining, minimizing, saying nothing happened the way people think. But Yandy wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at a photo on her dresser, one of all of them together, smiling like nothing in the world could break them. By the time the call ended, Yandy knew this wasn't just about Erica. It was about trust, about years of holding things together while cracks spread underneath. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. Once secrets see the light, they don't go back into the dark. And as the night wore on, another phone buzzed, another message arrived, pushing the story forward from the exact place it had just stopped. The message came from a number Yandy didn't recognize at first. No name, no photo, just a short line that made her stomach drop. You deserve to know everything. That was it. No greeting, no explanation, just enough to pull her back into the storm she was trying to breathe through. Her sister looked over her shoulder and sucked in a sharp breath. See, she said quietly. It's never just one thing. It's always layers. Yandy hesitated before replying. Her mind raced with possibilities. A friend trying to help. Someone trying to stir the pot. Or worse, someone who'd been watching from the sidelines the whole time. Finally, she typed back 2 words. Say it. The response came almost instantly, longer this time, messy, emotional, like the sender had been holding it in for too long. I didn't want to be involved, but I can't watch you get played like this. Erica and Mendeces didn't just talk. They met, more than once. Emotions ran high as Yandy read the message over and over, each word landing like a bruise. Met where? She asked, even though part of her already knew the answer wouldn't help. The reply included a location. A hotel, not some random spot, but one they'd all stayed at during a cast trip months ago. The memory hit her hard. She remembered laughing in that lobby, joking about how tired they all were, how she'd gone up early while everyone else stayed downstairs drinking. Her sister covered her mouth. That was the night you said he came up late, she whispered. Yandy nodded slowly. She'd brushed it off back then. He said he lost track of time. She believed him because believing was easier than questioning. Because families don't survive on suspicion. They survive on trust, even when that trust is fragile. Across town, Mendeces was getting his own messages. Friends warning him the internet was turning fast. Fans were shocked, dragging up every rumor from the past, painting a picture where this was just another chapter, not a shocking twist. He felt cornered. He called Erica again, his voice low and urgent. They're saying too much, he said. Someone's talking. Erica snapped back that she never asked him to call her anymore. You said this wouldn't come out, she yelled. Now I look crazy and you're sitting quiet. Erica's world felt like it was collapsing from all sides. Blogs were posting blurry screenshots, not enough to prove anything, but enough to fuel speculation. She went live herself for a brief moment, eyes red, voice shaking, saying people needed to stop lying on her name. But the comments were brutal. Fans calling her fake. Fans accusing her of betraying another woman for attention. She ended her live quickly, realizing she wasn't controlling the narrative anymore. Yandy decided she couldn't sit in the house another minute. She needed answers face to face. She told her sister to stay back and grabbed her keys. As she drove, memories played like a montage she never asked for. Dinners where Erica complimented her outfit a little too much. Moments where Mendeces seemed distracted whenever Erica entered a room. All the little things she told herself meant nothing because acknowledging them would have meant admitting something was wrong. She pulled up to Mendeces' place and didn't knock. When he opened the door and saw her, his face fell. You shouldn't be here, he said, already defensive. That was the wrong thing to say. Her voice didn't rise. That scared him more. You don't get to tell me where I should or shouldn't be, she replied. Not after what I just found out. Inside, the tension was thick, heavy, like the air before a storm breaks. She placed her phone on the table and slid it toward him. The message thread was open. He stared at it, jaw tight. Who sent you this? He asked. She shook her head. Doesn't matter. What matters is if it's true. He didn't answer right away. That pause again. That same hesitation. The one she now recognized as guilt. Say it, she demanded, tears threatening to spill again. Did you meet her? He finally nodded, barely. Just to talk, he added quickly, like that would soften the blow. Yandy laughed, a sharp sound full of pain. In a hotel, multiple times, while I was upstairs, and you want me to believe you were just talking. Meanwhile, Erica was spiraling. She threw her phone across the room after another notification popped up. She felt betrayed too, in her own way. She'd convinced herself this situation was mutual understanding, no feelings, no damage. Now she was being painted as the villain while Mendeces hid behind silence. She called him again, and this time he answered. She could hear Yandy's voice in the background, and panic shot through her. Put me on speaker, she said suddenly. I'm not letting this be one-sided. Yandy froze when she heard Erica's voice echo through the room. So now you want to talk, she said coldly. Erica took a breath. I never meant to hurt you, she said. That sentence alone felt like gasoline on a fire. You don't accidentally hurt someone like this, Yandy shot back. This wasn't a mistake, this was a choice. The argument exploded from there. Accusations flying, voices overlapping, Erica insisting nothing physical happened, Yandy demanding explanations for deleted messages and secret meetings. Mendeces trying and failing to control the chaos he helped create. Emotions ran high as years of tension spilled out in minutes. Erica finally snapped. You've always acted like you were better than me, she yelled. Like you had the perfect family. Maybe I wanted to see if it was real. The room went silent. Even Mendeces looked stunned. Yandy felt something inside her harden. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was resentment that had been festering quietly, waiting for an excuse to surface. That's when Yandy realized this story was bigger than an affair rumor. It was about jealousy, insecurity, and lines crossed long before anyone admitted it. She hung up the phone without another word and looked at Mendeces, eyes empty now. You let her disrespect me, she said quietly. You let this happen. He tried to reach for her, but she stepped back. Don't touch me, she said. Not right now, maybe not ever. She walked out, leaving him standing there, alone with the consequences he could no longer explain away. Outside, Yandy sat in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel, sobbing harder than she had on live. The difference now was there was no audience. Just pain, just truth, and somewhere in the city, Erica stared at her phone, realizing the silence that followed was louder than any argument. Because once everything is said, there's no undoing it. And as fans continued to speculate, argue, and take sides, the real damage was unfolding quietly, right where the story had just left off. The next morning didn't bring clarity. It brought noise. Yandy woke up to her phone lighting up like it had a mind of its own. Missed calls from producers, texts from friends she hadn't spoken to in years, even distant relatives asking if she was okay. Fans were shocked, didn't even begin to cover it anymore. Now it was think pieces, reaction videos, breakdowns of every word spoken on that live and every rumor that followed. She sat at the kitchen table staring at her coffee, untouched, cold. Sleep hadn't really happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that hotel name. Heard Erica's voice saying maybe I wanted to see if it was real. That sentence stayed with her like a bruise you keep pressing just to see if it still hurts. Her kids were still asleep, and that was the only peace she had. Because once they woke up, she knew questions would come. Maybe not from them directly, but from the world creeping closer to her front door. She wasn't just protecting herself anymore. She was protecting a family that suddenly felt fragile in a way she'd never allowed herself to imagine. Meanwhile, Mendeces woke up to silence. The kind that presses on your chest. No good morning text, no check-in, just notifications telling him what he already knew. The internet had decided his role in this story, and there was no editing it now. Friends texted telling him to get ahead of it. Others told him to stay quiet. But staying quiet felt like admitting guilt, even if he kept telling himself things weren't as bad as they sounded. Erica, on the other hand, chose chaos. By midday, she posted a long story filled with vague lines about being misunderstood, about people throwing stones when they didn't know the full truth. Emotions ran high in the comments. Some fans defended her, saying Yandy should have handled it privately. Others dragged her relentlessly, reminding her this wasn't the first time her name had been attached to drama like this. Yandy watched it all without reacting. That was new for her. Usually, she was quick to respond, to set the record straight. But now, she felt tired. Tired of explaining loyalty to people who never respected it. Tired of being the strong one. She ignored the producer's calls until one message finally broke through. We need to know where you stand. Filming resumes soon. That message forced her to confront something she'd been avoiding. This wasn't just personal. It was public. Contracts, cameras, narratives. People would want tears, confrontation, closure. She wasn't sure she could give them that without breaking completely. Later that afternoon, her sister returned, bringing food Yandy didn't ask for but desperately needed. They sat on the couch, TV muted, watching the world react to Yandy's pain like it was entertainment. This is sick, her sister said. They forget you're human. Yandy nodded. I forgot that too, she replied softly. Another message came through, this one from Erica. Can we talk without cameras? Without him, just us. Yandy stared at it for a long time. Part of her wanted to delete it immediately. Another part needed answers only Erica could give. After a long pause, she replied. One conversation. That's it. They met at a quiet cafe, tucked away from the usual spots. No glam, no entourage, just two women sitting across from each other, years of complicated history hanging between them. Erica arrived first, sunglasses on, hands trembling as she wrapped them around a cup she wasn't drinking from. When Yandy walked in, Erica stood up instinctively, then froze, unsure if that was welcome. Sit, Yandy said, voice calm but distant. Erica sat back down, swallowing hard. I know you hate me, she started. Yandy cut her off. This isn't about hate, it's about why. Why you looked me in my face and did this. Erica's composure cracked. Tears spilled over as she talked about feeling overlooked, always the outsider, always the one people judge. She admitted the messages crossed lines. Admitted the meetings were wrong. But she insisted again that nothing physical happened. Yandy listened, expression unreadable. "You don't need to touch someone to betray me," she finally said. "You just needed to disrespect me. And you did that." Erica reached across the table. Yandy didn't take her hand. "I trusted you around my family," she continued. "Around my kids. Do you know how that feels?" Erica sobbed harder, apologizing, saying she'd take it all back if she could. But apologies sounded empty now. Too late. Outside the cafe, paparazzi waited. The moment they stepped out separately, cameras clicked. Proof that the meeting happened, even if nobody knew what was said. Speculation exploded again. Fans analyzing body language. Who looked angrier? Who looked guilty? The family was left divided not just behind closed doors but in public opinion too. That evening, Yandy finally went live again. Not crying this time. Calm. Controlled. She told fans she was taking time for herself and her family. She didn't name names. Didn't throw accusations. That restraint confused people more than drama ever could. But it also shifted something. Some fans started questioning Erica harder. Others turned on Mendeces completely. Mendeces watched the live alone. He realized then how much damage silence had done. He finally posted a statement, talking about accountability, about mistakes, about loving his family. But the comments were unforgiving. People wanted specifics, timelines, truth, and he wasn't ready to give all of that. Days passed, but the tension didn't fade. Filming resumed. Cameras captured awkward rooms, forced conversations, cold glances. Every scene felt heavier because the real wounds were still open. Erica avoided Yandy at first, then tried to speak, only to be shut down. Mendeces attempted apologies that sounded rehearsed, not because they were fake, but because real emotion had nowhere safe to land. One night, after a long shoot, Yandy sat alone again, scrolling through messages from fans who shared their own stories of betrayal. Some thanked her for being strong. Others begged her to leave. She realized this wasn't just her story anymore. It had become a mirror for too many people. And somewhere between the noise, the tears, and the endless opinions, one truth settled in. Whatever came next, whether reconciliation or separation, forgiveness or distance, things would never return to what they were. The line had been crossed. The illusion shattered, and as the story continued to unfold, it was clear the biggest decisions were still ahead, waiting right where this moment ended. The pressure finally caught up to Yandy during a late-night shoot that was supposed to be simple. One room, a few cast members, casual conversation. But nothing about this was casual anymore. The moment she walked in, the energy shifted. People stopped talking. Eyes followed her. Fans weren't the only ones watching now. Everyone in that room knew something explosive was sitting just beneath the surface. She took her seat, posture straight, face calm, but inside her chest felt like it was caving in. Erica was already there, sitting across from her, arms crossed tightly like armor. Mendeces came in last, jaw set, trying to look unbothered. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Finally, someone asked the question everyone was thinking but nobody wanted to say out loud. "So, where do things stand now?" Emotions ran high instantly. Yandy exhaled slowly before speaking. "Things stand exactly where the truth stands," she said. Unfinished. Erica rolled her eyes, unable to help herself. "Here we go," she muttered. That was enough. Yandy's head snapped up. "Don't do that," she warned. "Don't minimize this like it's entertainment for you." Erica shot back that everything had already been dragged through the mud anyway. "What else do you want from me?" she asked, voice cracking. "I apologized. I took accountability." Yandy leaned forward. "Accountability isn't just words," she said. "It's understanding the damage you caused without making yourself the victim." Mendeces tried to step in, saying everyone needed to calm down. That only made things worse. "You don't get to play peacemaker now," Yandy said sharply. "You created this mess." The room went quiet. Even the crew seemed frozen. "Fans are shocked" would have been an understatement if they could see this unfiltered moment. Mendeces finally snapped back, saying he was tired of being painted as a monster. "I made mistakes," he said, voice rising, "but I didn't destroy my family alone." Yandy stared at him, stunned. "Alone," she repeated. That word hurt more than any accusation. "So now this is shared blame. Now my trust is somehow equal to your betrayal." The argument escalated quickly, voices overlapping, years of resentment spilling out. Erica accused Yandy of always wanting control. Yandy accused Erica of craving validation at any cost. Mendeces accused both of them of not understanding the pressure he was under. Nobody was listening anymore. They were just trying to survive the moment. Finally, Yandy stood up. "I'm done," she said quietly. "Not with the conversation. With pretending this can be fixed by talking in circles." She walked out, leaving the room in stunned silence. Cameras caught it all. The clip leaked within hours. Fans picked sides instantly. Some praised her strength. Others accused her of running away. The family was left divided more publicly than ever. That night, Yandy didn't go home. She checked into a hotel alone. Irony didn't escape her. She sat on the bed, staring at the city lights, wondering how her life had unraveled so fast. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from someone unexpected. A former friend of Erica's. "I think you should know this," the message began. Attached were screenshots. Old ones. Messages between Erica and Mendeces from months earlier. Flirtatious, suggestive, nothing explicit but enough to confirm what Yandy already felt in her bones. The timing was the worst part. These messages were from a period when Yandy was dealing with family issues, leaning on Erica for support. Yandy didn't cry this time. She felt numb, betrayed on multiple levels. She forwarded the screenshots to Mendeces with no explanation. Minutes later, her phone rang. She didn't answer. He texted back frantically, asking where those came from, insisting they were taken out of context. Context doesn't erase intent, she typed back. Erica, meanwhile, was unraveling. The leaks were turning darker. People from her past speaking out, claiming patterns, claiming this wasn't new behavior. She felt cornered, furious that Mendeces hadn't defended her publicly. "You let them drag me," she screamed during a phone call. He shot back that she dragged herself. That was the moment their alliance truly collapsed. The next day, Erica went live again, this time angrier than ever. She accused Yandy of leaking messages. Accused Mendeces of abandoning her. Emotions ran high as she cried and yelled in the same breath. But instead of sympathy, the reaction was swift and brutal. Fans called out contradictions. Timelines didn't add up. The tide turned against her fast. Yandy watched the live from her hotel room, not with satisfaction, but with sadness. This wasn't how she wanted things to end. She wanted honesty, not humiliation. She finally broke her silence, posting a short message. "I never wanted revenge. I wanted respect." That post went viral within minutes. Mendeces finally showed up at the hotel unannounced. Yandy opened the door but didn't invite him in. He looked exhausted, eyes red, voice hoarse. "I messed up," he admitted. "More than I said, more than you know." That confession hit her harder than denial ever could. "Why now?" she asked. "Because I'm losing everything," he replied. That answer told her everything. This wasn't about remorse. It was about consequences. She told him she needed space. Real space, not performative distance. He begged, promised therapy, promised transparency, promised change. She listened quietly, then said something that ended the conversation. Promises don't mean anything when trust is gone. She closed the door gently but firmly. Inside, she slid down against it, finally letting herself cry again. Not because she was weak, but because she was grieving. The life she thought she had. The people she thought she knew. Outside, the world kept spinning. Blogs speculated about divorce. Fans debated forgiveness. Producers planned storylines. But inside that hotel room, Yandy made a decision. Whatever came next would be on her terms. No more protecting people who wouldn't protect her. No more silence for the sake of appearances. And as the scandal continued to ripple outward, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't just a chapter. It was a turning point. And the fallout from what had already happened was only setting the stage for what was still to come, waiting just beyond this moment, exactly where the story now paused. The pause didn't last long. Nothing ever does when the world is watching. By the time Yandy checked out of the hotel 2 days later, the narrative had already evolved without her permission. Blogs were reporting sources close to the family. Fans were convinced they knew what her next move would be. Some swore she was done for good. Others believed this was just another storm she'd weather and forgive her way through. What none of them understood was that Yandy herself didn't fully know yet. She went home and hugged her kids a little tighter than usual. They didn't ask questions, but they felt the shift. Kids always do. That night, after they were asleep, she sat alone in the living room, lights off, scrolling through old photos on her phone. Birthdays, vacations, moments that felt real and happy. She wasn't trying to torture herself. She was trying to remember when things last felt honest. Across town, Mendeces was unraveling quietly. The bravado was gone. Friends stopped answering calls. The house felt empty even when people were around. He replayed conversations in his head, convincing himself that if he'd just handled one moment differently, this wouldn't have spiraled. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. This wasn't one bad decision. It was a series of them, stacked on top of each other until the weight finally collapsed everything. Erica retreated from the spotlight for the first time in days. No lives, no posts, just silence. And that silence spoke volumes. People speculated she was lawyered up. Others claimed she was planning a tell-all. The truth was less dramatic. She was sitting alone, finally forced to sit with herself without the noise, without validation, without someone else to blame. And she didn't like what she saw. Filming resumed again, this time heavier, more controlled. Producers encouraged conversations, but Yandy made one thing clear. She would not be ambushed. She would not be pressured into forgiveness for the sake of good TV. When she finally sat down with Mendeces on camera, the distance between them was physical and emotional. Two people sharing a space but no longer sharing a reality. He started with an apology, voice shaking, admitting more than he had before. He acknowledged emotional boundaries were crossed. Admitted he enjoyed the attention. Admitted he didn't shut it down when he should have. Yandy listened, arms folded, eyes steady. When he finished, she asked one question. Why did you protect her feelings more than mine? He had no answer. That silence said everything. Fans watching later would replay that moment over and over, calling it the real breaking point. Not the messages, not the lives, but that unanswered question hanging in the air. Later, Yandy was asked if she'd be willing to sit down with Erica again. She declined, not out of anger, but clarity. Some conversations don't bring closure, she said. They just reopen wounds. That boundary shocked people who were used to seeing her play mediator, peacemaker, fixer. But this time, she chose herself. Erica eventually broke her silence with a carefully worded statement. No tears, no shouting, just accountability mixed with self-preservation. She admitted lines were crossed emotionally. Denied physical involvement again, said she regretted hurting Yandy. The response was mixed. Some believed her, many didn't. The family was left divided not just between the women, but among fans who once supported them both. Behind the scenes, Mendeces tried everything. Counseling appointments, public gestures, private letters. He wrote Yandy a long message one night, admitting fears he'd never voiced before. About feeling inadequate, about losing himself, about sabotaging the one person who believed in him when no one else did. Yandy read it slowly, carefully. She didn't respond, not because she didn't care, but because caring had cost her too much already. Weeks passed. The noise softened slightly, replaced by anticipation. People waited to see what Yandy would do next. Leave, stay, forgive, rebuild. She surprised everyone by doing none of it publicly. She focused on her work, her kids, her peace. She stopped explaining herself, and that silence became powerful. Mendeces felt the shift. Her absence was louder than any argument. He realized that winning her back wasn't about grand gestures anymore. It was about becoming someone she could trust again, even if that trust never returned in the same form. Erica, meanwhile, felt the weight of consequences settle in. Opportunities paused, invitations slowed, people she once counted as friends distanced themselves. For the first time, she understood that attention gained through chaos always comes with a price. The season aired, viewers watched the unraveling play out with popcorn and opinions. But what they didn't see were the quiet nights. The therapy sessions, the internal battles, the moments when Yandy almost reached for her phone and didn't. Those moments were the real story. By the time the reunion was announced, everyone knew it would be explosive. Questions unanswered, emotions unresolved, alliances shattered, but Yandy walked in calm, grounded, different. Not hardened, evolved. When asked if she hated Erica, she shook her head. Hate takes energy, she said. I'm investing mine elsewhere. When asked if she was done with Mendeces, she paused. I'm done accepting less than honesty, she replied. That answer kept everyone guessing. The story didn't end with a clear villain or a neat resolution. It ended with growth, with loss, with accountability that couldn't be undone. And as the cameras faded and the internet moved on to the next scandal, the people at the center were left to live with what happened long after the noise died down. Because the truth was simple and brutal. Lives don't reset when the episode ends. Trust doesn't regenerate because ratings demand it. And once tears are shed publicly, they don't dry privately. The fallout from that live wasn't just a moment. It was a fracture. And even as time passed, the echo of it remained, lingering right where the story now rests. Time moved forward, but nothing really settled. The reunion aired, trended, then slowly faded from the front page, yet the emotional debris stayed scattered across everyone's life. Yandy felt it most in the quiet moments. Grocery store runs without Mendeces beside her. Late nights when the house felt too big. She wasn't lonely in the traditional sense. She was recalibrating, learning who she was without constantly holding everything and everyone together. She started therapy seriously, not as a storyline, not as a talking point, but as a necessity. In those sessions, she admitted things she'd never said out loud. That she was tired of being the strong one. That she equated loyalty with self-sacrifice. That part of her ignored warning signs because she didn't want to fail publicly. Saying it stripped some of the shame away. She wasn't weak for staying as long as she did. She was human. Mendeces was on his own journey, though it didn't look as graceful from the outside. He struggled with accountability without self-pity. Some days he got it right, acknowledging his role without deflection. Other days he slipped back into frustration, feeling like no amount of honesty would ever be enough. He watched Yandy change from a distance and realized something painful. She was growing without him. Not despite him, just because she had to. He tried to be present for the kids, careful not to involve them emotionally, careful not to poison what still mattered most. But even that felt different. Yandy no longer filled in the gaps for him. She no longer reminded him of schedules or smoothed over tension. He had to show up fully or not at all. That adjustment was humbling. Erica attempted a rebrand. It was subtle at first. Quieter posts, inspirational captions, talks about healing and accountability. But the internet has a long memory. Comments followed her everywhere, reminding her of what she wanted to move past. At first she fought it. Then she got tired. Eventually, she started acknowledging it directly. I messed up, she said in one video. I'm living with that. Not everyone accepted it, but it was the first time she wasn't running from the narrative. Still, the consequences lingered. Invitations slowed, collaborations dried up. She learned the difference between attention and respect, and how easily one disappears when the other is gone. Late at night, she replayed that cafe conversation with Yandy in her head, wishing she'd been braver earlier. Wishing she'd chosen honesty over ego. Wishing didn't change anything, but it taught her something she couldn't unlearn. Months passed. The noise softened into background static. Yandy focused on projects that had nothing to do with drama. Community work, business ventures, things that reminded her she was more than someone's partner or someone else's storyline. Fans noticed the shift. They commented on how light she looked, how grounded. Emotions ran high in a different way now. Pride instead of pity. One afternoon, Mendeces asked if they could talk. Not to fix things, not to argue, just to talk. Yandy agreed, but set clear boundaries. Public place, limited time, no rewriting history. They sat across from each other, two people who knew each other deeply but differently now. He thanked her for not turning their pain into revenge. She thanked him for finally being honest, even if it came too late. They didn't decide anything that day. They didn't need to. The pressure to define their future had lifted. Whatever happened would happen slowly, deliberately, without an audience dictating the outcome. That alone felt like progress. Fans continued to speculate, of course. They always would. Every photo analyzed, every absence questioned, but Yandy stopped responding. She understood now that closure doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from making peace with yourself. The story that started with tears on a live didn't end with a dramatic reconciliation or a final breakup announcement. It ended in something quieter. Accountability without spectacle, growth without applause, boundaries without guilt. And maybe that's what shocked people the most. Not the betrayal, not the arguments, but the fact that Yandy chose herself when the cameras stopped rolling. That she didn't weaponize pain. That she let the story close naturally, without forcing an ending that felt good for anyone else. Because real life doesn't wrap itself neatly. Sometimes it just keeps going, changed forever, carrying lessons you didn't ask for but needed all the same. And as the world moved on to the next headline, the people at the center of this one kept living, still healing, still learning, still carrying the echo of a moment that altered everything, even after the spotlight moved on. Even as the world slowly shifted its attention elsewhere, the ripple effects of that night never fully disappeared. Yandy felt it in subtle ways. Invitations that used to come automatically now came with hesitation. Conversations that once felt easy now carried an unspoken awareness. People watched her differently, not with pity, but with curiosity, as if they were waiting to see who she would become next. She didn't rush to define herself for them. Instead, she leaned into routine. Early mornings, quiet workouts, time with her kids that felt more intentional than ever. She stopped multitasking during conversations and started listening to herself in ways she never had before. It was uncomfortable at first. Growth always is, but there was peace in no longer carrying everyone else's emotional weight. Mendeces, meanwhile, faced his own reckoning. The absence of chaos didn't bring relief the way he expected. Without constant conflict or reconciliation cycles, he was left alone with his thoughts. Therapy forced him to confront patterns he'd long avoided. Attention-seeking, avoidance, the need for validation outside of his relationship. Naming those flaws didn't fix them, but it stripped away the excuses. There were nights he wanted to reach out to Yandy, not to fix anything, but to feel familiar again. Most nights, he didn't. He was learning that real accountability sometimes means sitting with discomfort instead of soothing it. Erica's journey was lonelier. The industry has a way of closing ranks quietly. She wasn't blacklisted outright, but doors didn't open as easily. She found herself explaining the same situation repeatedly, watching people's expressions shift as soon as her name was connected to the scandal. At first, she blamed Yandy. Then Mendeces. Eventually, she ran out of people to blame. She started journaling, something she'd always mocked before. Pages filled with anger, regret, defensiveness, then slowly, honesty. She admitted she liked the secrecy. The thrill, the feeling of being chosen. Admitting that didn't make her proud, but it made her aware. And awareness, she learned, was the first step toward real change. Months later, an unexpected moment brought everything rushing back. A mutual event, unavoidable. The room wasn't big enough to pretend history didn't exist. Yandy arrived confident, centered. Erica noticed immediately. Not jealousy, but recognition. This is what healing looks like, she thought, even if she didn't like what it reflected back at her. They exchanged a brief nod. No words, no drama. Fans would later dissect that moment endlessly when clips surfaced. What they didn't see was the internal shift. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's mutual acknowledgement that something is over. Mendeces watched from across the room, realizing that whatever version of his life existed before was gone. Not destroyed, but transformed. He didn't know if reconciliation was possible. He knew pretending nothing happened wasn't. Later that night, Yandy sat alone in her car before driving home. She thought about the woman she was before that live. The one who believed silence could protect everyone. She smiled sadly. She didn't regret going live anymore. Painful as it was, it forced truth into the open. And truth, once exposed, stops festering. Fans continued to message her, sharing stories of choosing themselves after betrayal. She read some, ignored others. She understood now that her story had become symbolic, whether she wanted it to or not. She didn't owe anyone a perfect ending. She owed herself honesty. Time kept moving, wounds scarred over, not invisible, but no longer bleeding. Mendeces became more present, even if from a distance. Erica found quieter paths, learning to live without constant validation. Yandy thrived in ways she never anticipated, not because pain made her stronger, but because she finally stopped abandoning herself. The drama that once consumed headlines faded into a cautionary tale, referenced when people talked about loyalty, boundaries, and betrayal. But for those who lived it, it was never just drama. It was a turning point. And maybe that was the real story all along. Not tears on a live, not rumors or screenshots, but the moment 3 lives were forced to confront who they really were when the masks fell away. What they chose to do after that moment mattered far more than how it began. As the chapter quietly closed, one truth remained. Some betrayals don't end relationships. They end illusions. And sometimes, losing an illusion is the most painful, freeing thing that can happen to you. The illusion didn't shatter all at once. It cracked slowly, quietly, in moments nobody filmed and nobody clapped for. Yandy felt those cracks most when something good happened and her first instinct was still to share it with Mendeces. She'd reach for her phone, pause, then set it down. That pause became familiar, painful, but grounding. It reminded her that growth isn't loud. It's repetitive. It's choosing differently every single time. She started traveling more, sometimes for work, sometimes just to breathe somewhere new. Airports became places of reflection instead of stress. She watched couples walk by, families laughing, and instead of envy, she felt clarity. Everyone carries something. Hers just happened to be public. Emotions ran high in her chest sometimes, but they no longer controlled her. Mendeces noticed the distance turning into independence. It scared him in a way anger never had. When she was mad, he thought he could fix it. When she was calm, when she stopped reacting, he realized control was gone. He focused harder on rebuilding himself, not for optics, not to win her back, but because he couldn't survive being that version of himself again. There were setbacks, moments he slipped into defensiveness, moments she slipped into nostalgia. Healing was not linear. Some days felt like progress. Others felt like regression dressed up as reflection. But even on the hardest days, neither of them went back to pretending. Erica's transformation was quieter and less celebrated. She learned what it meant to sit with shame without performing remorse. Some friendships never returned, some doors stayed closed, but a few honest connections emerged, built on transparency instead of image. She stopped chasing the need to be seen and started working on being whole, even if nobody was watching. One night, Erica wrote a letter she never sent. It wasn't to Yandy or Mendeces. It was to herself. She wrote about the moment she crossed the line, the moment she ignored her own values for validation. She acknowledged the hurt she caused without excuses. Folding that letter away felt like releasing something she'd been carrying for too long. Months later, Yandy and Mendeces found themselves in the same space again, not for cameras, not for confrontation, but for their kids. A school event, neutral ground. They stood side by side, polite, respectful. The ease between them surprised both of them. Not romantic ease, human ease, the kind that comes from acceptance. Afterward, they talked briefly in the parking lot. No heavy topics, no blame, just updates, logistics, shared concern. As they said goodbye, there was no ache, just acknowledgement. Something had ended, but something else had stabilized. Fans still speculated, of course. They always would. Some rooted for reconciliation. Others demanded finality. But Yandy understood now that closure doesn't have to be public. It can exist quietly, protected. She stopped checking blogs, stopped searching her name, stopped measuring her healing against anyone else's expectations. She measured it in sleep, in laughter, in the way her chest felt lighter most days. The scandal that once dominated conversation became a reference point, not a headline. People used it as an example, a lesson, a warning. But for those who lived it, it became a foundation. Painful, but solid, built from truth instead of illusion. One evening, sitting alone with a cup of tea, Yandy reflected on that first live. The tears, the vulnerability, the fear of being seen as weak. She realized now that moment wasn't her breaking point. It was her awakening, the moment she stopped protecting lies that weren't hers to keep. And in that realization, there was peace. Because sometimes the most dramatic stories don't end with shouting or revenge or reunions. They end with self-respect. With boundaries, with choosing yourself even when it costs you everything you thought you wanted. And that choice, once made, changes everything forever. The forever part didn't announce itself. It crept in quietly, disguised as ordinary days that no longer felt heavy. Yandy noticed it the first time she laughed without checking her phone afterward, without wondering how it would look or who might twist it. The laugh surprised her. It came from somewhere deep, unguarded, untouched by performance. That's when she understood something had shifted for good. She stopped explaining her choices even to people who loved her. She realized that clarity doesn't need a defense team. The more she trusted herself, the less she needed approval. Mornings became sacred. She woke up early, not because she had to, but because she wanted to sit in the quiet before the world started asking things of her. Those moments became her reset. Mendeces felt the permanence too. Not as relief, but as acceptance. There was no dramatic final conversation that sealed it. Just consistency. Boundaries that didn't bend. Expectations that were clear and unmoving. He understood now that love without trust is just attachment, and attachment can't sustain a family. That realization hurt, but it also freed him from chasing an outcome that no longer existed. He focused on being present in the ways that mattered, showing up, listening, doing the work without expecting applause or forgiveness as a reward. Some days he still wished for a different ending. Other days he was grateful that the ending forced him to grow in ways comfort never could. Erica watched all of this from a distance, not as an outsider anymore, but as someone changed by consequence. She stopped telling her story as a defense and started telling it as a lesson. Fewer people listened, but the ones who did mattered more. She learned that redemption isn't loud. It's consistent. It's boring. It's earned slowly, if at all. Time continued its quiet work. Wounds closed. Scars remained. Not ugly, just visible reminders of where things had broken and healed. Yandy didn't hide hers. She didn't flaunt them either. They were simply part of her now. One day, a fan stopped her on the street and thanked her. Not for the drama, not for the honesty online, but for choosing herself. The fan said watching her do that gave them permission to do the same. Yandy hugged her, feeling the full circle of it all. The pain hadn't been wasted. It had transformed into something useful. She thought back to that first night again. The tears, the shaking voice, the fear of being exposed. She wished she could tell that version of herself something. Not that it would be okay, but that it would be real. And real was better than safe. The story that started as scandal ended as evolution. Not flashy, not clean, but honest. And honesty, she learned, is the one thing that doesn't fade when attention moves on. Some betrayals change relationships, others change people. This one did both. And even now, long after the comments slowed and the headlines disappeared, the impact remained. Not as drama, but as truth lived out daily. Because once you stop betraying yourself, everything else falls into place. And that was the ending nobody expected, but the one that mattered most. Now it's your turn. After everything you've just heard, the tears, the betrayal, the silence, and the choices that followed, one question remains unanswered, and only you can weigh in. Was this a moment that could have been saved, or was the damage done long before the live ever started? Fans are still divided, emotions are still running high, and the truth feels different depending on which side you're standing on. You've seen how quickly loyalty can turn into suspicion, how love can crack under secrets, and how sometimes the loudest statement is choosing peace over chaos. But what would you have done in Yandy's position? Would you have confronted sooner, forgiven faster, walked away immediately, or stayed quiet to protect the family no matter the cost? Everyone has an opinion, but yours matters here. Drop it in the comments and let your voice be heard. Do you believe Erica crossed a line that could never be uncrossed, or do you think this was a situation blown out of control by the internet? Was Mendeces truly remorseful, or only sorry once consequences hit? The family was left divided, but the conversation is far from over. If this story shocked you, moved you, or made you reflect on your own relationships, make sure you hit like so more people can see it. If you don't want to miss the next twist, the next breakdown, or the next truth that nobody wants to say out loud, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. And most importantly, comment below, because this story doesn't end here, it continues with you. This isn't just drama, it's a mirror, and what you see in it says everything.